Well, I think Benghazi would be part of the overall review of her leadership of the State Department. And I think that the Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama foreign policy has been an abject failure. And that, I think, will be the most difficult part of her campaign if she gets in. We'll be looking back at her reset with Russia. We'll look at the failure to stand up for the voices in Iran as they took to the streets asking for freedom. We'll consider what's happened in Libya and in Egypt and Tunisia and across the Middle East, the rise of ISIS, the fact that we didn't put a status of forces agreement in place in Iraq. Some of these things were on her watch.
All right, it sounds like a pretty damning case, if you ask me. But Brent Budowsky, a writer for The Hill and former aide to Senator Lloyd Bentsen, has penned a piece at thehill.com, Why Hillary Can Win Big. Hello, sir.
How you doing there?
I'm doing well. We're both victims of snow, you and I, so we have that in common today. So tell me why you think everything, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, how in the face of everything that you just heard Mitt Romney say, and a lot more, do you predict or think that Hillary still can win big?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure Mitt Romney said we want to return to the good old days of the George Bush, Dick Cheney foreign policy and the Iraq war, the financial crash, the depression we almost had, the housing catastrophe, the sky-high unemployment, and all those things that the last Republican president did. So I didn't hear him talk about that. He tried in the last presidential campaign, and it didn't work that well. So I think when voters compare what happened during the Bill Clinton presidency, what happened during the George W. Bush presidency, I think Hillary is on pretty solid ground, and she's going to run to expand and build on her legacy. The Republican opponent is going to have to run to avoid, escape, and deny their legacy.
Well,
now, I don't deny she has some problems, and I'm not saying she's going to win for sure, but I'd rather be in her position than any Republican right now.
Well, legacy, I'm sure we'll enter into it. If people want to harken back to the 90s, here we are 20 years later. And of course, the economic prosperity of the 90s, if you want to argue legacy, was due to the .com and the taking off of the internet. It wasn't any policy you could point to, or maybe there were policies that Clinton went along with in the Republican.
Oh yeah, no,
Congress.
I would make the argument we could do a 5-hour show, which I'd be glad to do, about Democratic economic policy versus Republican economic policy, going back to Herbert Hoover right through. I think I would argue, and we can debate this as much time as we have anytime you want, I would argue that Democratic economic policies, because I would argue they are better policies, have a history of creating growth. Republican economic policies have a history of creating recessions, depressions, and crashes. Now, we may disagree philosophically, but I think Hillary Clinton will be on solid ground debating that anywhere.
Well,
30 million American jobs created during the Bill Clinton presidency was a pretty good thing to run on to make the next 30 million in a Hillary Clinton presidency.
But like I said, Brent, that was a different time in a climate where the .com industry was taking off, which had nothing to do with any Bill Clinton policy. But let's not get bogged down on that. Let's fast forward to, we lived in a time of peace during Bill Clinton. We lived in a time of ignoring the threat of Osama bin Laden. He turned down Osama bin Laden. He ignored Osama bin Laden. And look what happened shortly after Bill Clinton left office. And look where we are now, after 4 years of Hillary as head of state, Department of State, and of Barack Obama's foreign policy for 6 years. How is she going to run away from that?
Well, look, Bill Clinton is the most popular living former president.
But he's not running, Brent. He's not running.
All of them. Okay, that's the fact. No. But I mean, look, you can make the argument that George Bush is better, or anyone you like, or Republicans can make that argument. My point is that people going back to the 1990s are not Hillary Clinton. It's the House committees that look like Dan Burton used to look when they were trying to impeach Bill Clinton, and his popularity when they did that went up to 65%. They don't learn. They're the ones in the 1990s. The other ones in the 1990s are the major media that treat that stuff like it's serious. Now, when we go forward, Hillary has a challenge. There's no doubt about it. You're right about this. She needs to advocate policies for the future that would create the next 30 million jobs. That is her challenge. But I'll tell you this, Hillary Clinton will be arguing that the economic policies of Pope Francis are right about an economy that lifts all boats, and the Republicans will be arguing that the economic policies of George Bush that caused the crash are right, and they'll be arguing that the economic policies of the Pope are wrong.
All right, well,
and
Brent,
that's
let
a
me ask you,
debate
Brent,
we're talking about right now that the voters will see.
Let me ask you, name me one economic policy of George W. Bush that caused the housing crash. First of all, you said high unemployment. Right up until 08, unemployment was 5.3%. So I don't know where you get the high unemployment of Bush from, but it was, you could trace it back to Secretary...
You're not arguing Americans want to go back to the economy under George W. Bush.
Well, if they were educated...
Is that going to be the Republican argument?
Well, Brent, is it going to be the Democratic argument that the Democratic policies for the last 6 years of Barack Obama, the slowest economic recovery in our history, is what we're going to continue under Hillary Clinton, where people have given up looking for work and they're underemployed?
Now,
and
let me answer your question. Let me answer your question about what it is about Republican policies under Bush and Herbert Hoover.
But then nobody cares about Bush and Herbert Hoover.
Pope Francis criticized. No, you just said what about Bush's economic policies?
Because you brought him up. You're making it sound like they're going to have to run against.
It was the trickle-down economics that Pope.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I answer the question?
Yeah,
Steve,
go ahead.
Please, give me 30 seconds
go ahead.
here. What the economic policies that caused the crash were the economic policies that Pope Francis criticized, which are called trickle-down economics. Give it to the rich, give it to the top, and it trickles down. And what trickled down was a recession, a depression, a housing crash. That's what happens when you have economic policies called trickle-down that the Pope criticized, that Democrats criticized, that Hillary criticized.
Okay.
That is the debate as we're having it right now, and this is good. That's the debate the voters will listen to. And I am confident, and we'll see who's right, that Hillary Clinton will win that debate, and the people advocating trickle-down and Bush economics will lose it.
Well, I think
that history will judge who's right, and the
Brent,
voters will decide.
All right, the first question the Republican nominee has to say to Hillary is, how do you differ from the economic policies of Barack Obama, which have been a miserable failure? On that note, I look forward to talking to you again, sir. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, I'd rather have the recovery we got under Barack Obama, nine times out of 10
Then Reagan?
than the crash that Barack Obama
No. Reagan had a better recovery. Brent, I got to go. I'm out of time. Kendall Coffey's next. Got to go. Thanks.